All right, Coach. Tough one out there today. Had some fight late though. What you kind of observed from your team in this one?
Yeah, it's our third conference match this week in a very unforgiving conference. And I was proud of the team of finding kind of that next level at the end. We could have easily cashed it in. We had to make an adjustment. We chose to make an adjustment, obviously, because how we were performing in the first set, and pulled out something that we actually hadn't practiced yet. We've done a lot of adjustments that we've had to do kind of throughout the season due to injuries, and it's something that we hadn't practiced, and I was happy with the team being able to make an adjustment.
So one thing I actually noticed really late is I know Maya Ball getting a couple of aces there, really bringing a spark to this squad here. Just what have you been seeing out of her so far in these past couple of games, and how much did her aces kind of help turn the tides for you there?
Yeah, well, a complete turnaround, obviously, from what we had seen a couple days ago on the road at West Virginia, where she had 5 service errors, and we talked about, if we have to stay in the 5-1, because we can't keep losing those momentum shifts, and we were already high air as a team, that we were in control, and Britt had actually, against KU, stayed in the back row when we didn't use the DS. And so we knew she was capable of serving and playing defense. So if we needed to stay there like we did in the first set and part of the second set, we were going to do that. And so she understood the task, and I think she worked a little bit on her serving yesterday to get back into a rhythm. And that's really it for a jump top server, is finding that rhythm again, and she did that.
And she ended up leading in assists over Shobi this time around. What have you kind of seen from that?
Well, that's not a surprise. Of course, since preseason, we're always statting, every single practice, every single 6v6 drill, we're statting that. And the hitters have been hitting off of Maya. So that's not a complete surprise. They've been kind of pretty similar once we switched into the 6-2. And so, again, she had a few more. It doesn't surprise us because she's able to get, the hitters a ball and nice and high enough, and they can do something with it.
How do you contrast the Knights team that we saw in the first set versus the one we saw in the third set?
Well, we found some grit again, and sometimes there's some apprehension. There's all sorts of reasons. There's maybe a little hangover from the loss, at West Virginia when we had beat them the first time. There's just a lot that they've been dealing with. The hurricane was not much more than a week ago, but you know what? Everybody has injuries, everybody has illnesses. We have to learn to roll with it, and I think we realized that some of this was self-inflicted. When we were swinging tentatively because we were out of system and trying not to make errors, well, they're already a good team. You can't go soft on them. And I think sometimes we just have to learn how to get out of our own way and go for it.
Well, the errors ended up being a little more even this time around, as I've seen in the last couple sets. What have you seen as far as preventing those mistakes? Seen any improvements from before?
Yeah, we get caught up in the rally game so much, we forget it's really as simple as serve and pass. We have to give ourselves a chance. It's one thing if we were, still high ace, but we weren't. We are very low ace and really high air, and we've got to dial that back in. And we used KU as a perfect example. It's not like they end up with a ton of aces, but they keep the ball in play and let them play defense around it. And I think we use them as an example of we got to be able to put the ball in play so that we can have even a shot at them making an error, much less us making a big play. And I think that's where we narrowed our focus a little bit to the serve and pass game. It doesn't have to be a perfect pass, but we have to give our hitters a shot.
What would you say it ended up coming down to at that in the end of that third set?
Well, it's definitely coming down. We're close in a lot of sets. And being able to execute in the red zone, that's something you have to practice and prepare for. And unfortunately, 2 of our 4 pin hitters right now are so limited throughout the week. You can't replicate those things. You can't rep out, those funky plays at the net, or the serve trickling over the net. It's hard to replicate that. You really just have to play 6-on-6. We're not able to do that. We haven't been able to do that most of the season. So, those are some of the things that you have to try your best to replicate. But those are the things that why we were trying to use every single timeout we had, a challenge when we had one, because those are teachable moments because those are our times that we have to be able to learn within.
What does your team learn from a match against an opponent like this, top 10?
Well, we were just talking about this in the locker room. The mentality has to come first. We can't wait for a big play, a big block, a big kill, especially because our middles have been a big part of our offense, but we couldn't even get the ball to them much, today. Definitely under what we have been doing. So we can't wait for that. And I know that's an adrenaline rush, but you're actually in control of your attitude and your mentality. Again, we were excited that we were thankful that the bench was really getting the crowd into it as much, but that mentality has to start from within, and players are still learning confidence.
Yeah, speaking of that crowd, I mean, the Night Nation really showed up today.
They did. It was electric in there. That's something that we felt, I think, a lot last year. And most of our matches were on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays. But we've had a lot of Wednesday matches, and the Hurricane one was 12 p.m., on a Sunday. That's hard to get to. So they were loud, they were raucous, and we felt that today for sure.
What's keeping you and your team motivated or confident despite the losses you guys are experiencing?
Well, I think that growth mindset and that mentality that there's still a lot of season left. We still have, it was really different last year. No two seasons are alike anyway, but we have a lot of players in new roles. And so again, Sasha, you've seen her a middle, a right, and a left, and then back to the right today. And she's a redshirt freshman. So there's I think the fact that we're trying to narrow our focus onto small, teachable moments and learning to be adaptable. I think that's why we're still dialed in, because there's things that we're playing against through the net that we don't even replicate or haven't, seen through the net. So we're having to learn with film. They're learning how to be professionals still. There's quite a few on our team that are learning how to embrace a scouting report, learning how to watch film, not just watch it, but how to really pick it apart and how to attack an opponent as much as slow them down. So this is just a team that has embraced that, and we appreciate that, but you can't speed up time, and experience.
What do you look to see from today as you look forward now to Houston, where you're also going to be welcoming some alumni back into the fold, or back to the game?
Yeah, Houston, like Cincy, came into this conference with us, so I think there's always a rivalry there we're looking forward to, because there's familiarity. Now they had a lot graduate and some transfers and things like that, so we're always excited to welcome alumni back. I mean, we've been blessed with a lot of alumni attending matches so far. This season, they always come back. There's a lot in the area, but we're excited to get that gang back together, and it's their 10-year reunion, or the 10-year anniversary, I should say, of that championship, and that means a lot. And this program was built on a lot of tradition. We've had a national championship back when it was the AIAW, and the teams that came before us allowed us to have the venue that we have, that huge video board, the winning that, and those banners that we've seen, that's not lost on us. They made it possible for us to be in a Power 4 conference to this point.
How does today's match inform how you approach this next one with Houston?
Say that again?
How does today's match inform how you approach this next one with Houston?
Well, again, learning that it starts with us. It doesn't matter really. We have a game plan, but it starts with what we collectively bring to the table, mentality-wise, and what we can control.
So obviously, Kansas is a great team. What do you think is the biggest takeaway from the match today?
Well, that when we control what we can, what we are in command of, our attitude, our effort, being able to be aggressive, that we can play, with anybody. And even though obviously making an adjustment in the second set, it took us a little bit to remember which rotation we are with new personnel in different spots, that once we settle, that we have a lot of weapons, and I think it's learning to be adaptable.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Best of luck against Houston, Coach.